to the Prophecy Club. So I've never had this happen before. The craziest thing happened. Okay, so Friday I made the 30-minute broadcast and also a 60-minute broadcast that I normally do every day, and I posted it. The way I do this is I record it in Adobe Audition, then I export it to an MP3 file, and then I post it up on Dropbox, and then the stations pull it off from Dropbox. So this morning I get an email from one of the radio stations that says, you haven't posted a broadcast for Monday yet. I thought, oh, yes, I did. So I went up to Dropbox, and my password was no good. It had been changed. And sure enough, the broadcasts weren't there. Then I checked my email, and it said that it had an unauthorized access to my Dropbox, and that I needed to change the password. And so I looked at my computer, and the original files were not on my computer. 2 files. Absolutely positively were not there. I scanned, I searched every place. I was in a panic. I couldn't believe this. So not only were the original files on Dropbox deleted, but the original files that I made the programs from were deleted from my own personal computer. So then I thought, oh, not the problem. I'll go to Carbonite where it automatically backs it up. Guess what? First of all, it wouldn't let me on. I had to reset my password to me, indicating that someone had accessed Dropbox and someone had accessed my Carbonite, and that's the reason I had to reset the password. And my guess is it's one of the alphabet agencies, probably someone, well, high enough up to get past all of the passwords, so that's probably pretty high. And it's probably that because they didn't want me talking about the poor capabilities of the American military and our missile systems and the great advancements of the Russian military and their missiles. But I went ahead and made another program just a few minutes ago, and I quickly uploaded it for Monday's broadcast. So when it came out late, that's the reason it came out late. No fault of mine. Now I'm about to continue talking about that because there's lots of information about this. I want to believe that we can pray this whole thing off another 40 years. I don't know. But, I mean, we got to do our best, which is why we're calling for another solemn assembly in September. We'll get to that. But anyway, let me continue with what I wanted to get to yesterday. And we're still talking about that Russian bear and how he is firing up and getting very angry and has capabilities to take America out. So now, in case you're new to Prophecy Club, let me give you a little refresher. So back in 1980, after 30 years of smuggling Bibles into Romania and Russia, a Romanian pastor by the name of Dumitru Duduman was arrested, put through 5 months of torture, culminating in them putting him on the electric chair. As the electricity is going through him, the whole room lights up with white light, and the angel Gabriel appears and I'll try to get this picture. He'd be shocked to death with electricity. The angel Gabriel shows up in the room and says, Dimitri, look at me. And he says, so hard to look at the angel, so bright. He said, but I looked at the angel and said, Dimitri, he said, you're not going to die. You're going to America to give them a warning from God. Long story short, the angel told him the year, month, day, and hour he would be exiled, and that was July 22nd, 1984, 10 o'clock in the morning. Sure enough, that's when he was exiled. He arrived in America in 1984. The angel came to him again. And it was the very first night he arrived, and he said, get beside me. And he took and showed him California, Las Vegas, New York, and Florida. He said, you see what I've shown you? All of this is Sodom and Gomorrah, and one day it will burn. He said, how will it burn? America is so powerful. Now, listen carefully. He said, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 other countries will attack and defeat America in one day and 1 hour, so great riches will come to naught. Now, there's more there, but I'm not getting into that. Now let's jump to an article that was just put out by J.R. Nyquist. Okay, who's J.R. Nyquist? Well, Jeff came in and made a DVD for Prophecy Club October 1998 called Top Soviet War Plans for America. And you can go and order the DVD at prophecyclub.com, or you can watch it instantly at watchprophecyclub.com. So who's J.R. Nyquist? This is the guy that follows all of the Russian defectors. He is the expert on what the Russian defectors are saying coming out of Russia. And he has just posted a wonderful article I spent the lion's share of the broadcast yesterday reading, which is probably the reason I think the broadcast got deleted, not only off of Dropbox, off of Carbonite, but off of my personal computer, which I'm pretty upset about that they could do that. You realize you can do it, but, it's never going to happen to me. But apparently it just happened to me. Okay, so now what I want to do is continue with this article, and then I've got more. I've got a lot of stuff on, the Russian bear is getting very, very angry. Remember, Dmitry was shown in a vision. The Russian bear was asleep, and then he began to wake up, he began to grow and get more angry until finally his paw would shake the forest floor, and then a bunch of men came after this big giant bear with sticks. I think that's representing the NATO nations, and the bear just ran over them. In other words, when Russia attacks, there's nothing going to stop Russia. Okay, so let's go on to the article. Now, this is talking about Putin, and he's talking about their advanced techniques for Russia. But then it's also going to start talking about, here in just a minute, the lack of preparations for America. Commit himself, now this is Jaron Nyquist talking about what Putin said. Committing himself to sustainable development for human civilization, Putin then launched into an attack on the United States. Our policies have never been based on claims to exceptionalism. We protest our interests. We observe international law and believe in the vital central role of the UN. How internationalist, how noble, how disingenuous. Our effeminate and loose-principled politicians, now he's talking about America, say he stole the 2016 election for Trump when he stole the strategic high ground. Then Putin pointed Russia's, quote, comprehensive strategic partnership with the People's Republic of China. Of course, he opened. Russia's relations with, quote, many other countries in the world are entering a new dynamic stage. He then spoke of Russia's international reach, colleges. He said, looking into his elite Russian audience, quote, this is a turning point for the entire world and those who are willing and able to change. Oh, yes, change is necessary, he said. The next decade and the entire 21st century will, quote, undoubtedly be an age of outstanding triumphs for Russia. I believe it will be so. Thank you, unquote. So, now this is JR talking about Putin. And so, Putin himself has provided us with an answer to the question posted in last week's essay, which is, quote, are Russia and China igniting a third world war? To prepare such an astonishing array of weapons, which are clearly aimed at America, cannot be explained as a mere attempt at self-defense. Putin's entire performance was a perfectly choreographed threat. Perhaps anticipating this threat, 2 days before Putin's speech, U.S. Strategic Command sent an unprecedented tweet in the form of a, quote, posture statement preview from their website saying, the spectrum of conflict today is neither linear nor predictable. We must account for the possibility of conflict leading to considerations which could very rapidly drive an adversary to consider nuclear use as their last bad option. So what we're really seeing here, this is the two bullies on the block, and one has already drawn a line in the sand, saying you step over that and there's going to be war. And the other one is walking around the bully, kicking the sand at his feet, saying, I dare you. Let's go on with the article. The U.S. Strategic Command is admitting, without offering details, what was outlined in our essay of last week. Indeed, a nuclear war could begin at any time. I'll read that again. Indeed, a nuclear war could begin at any time. What events would, quote, drive an adversary to consider nuclear use as their last bad option? The answer may be found in the, quote, classics of the Soviet military literature, which support in every respect the choices made by Putin's new weapon scientists. To put Russia's new weapons in perspective, a brief commentary on America's new weapon systems is also in order. Let's start with the U.S. Navy's littoral combat ship, or, as one would put it, quote, how to put lipstick on a pig. In other words, he's saying that the American military is in serious trouble. It is a $34 billion warship program that does not work as intended. It costs almost as much to operate as a guided missile destroyer, but without any real combat value. Or, how about that, quote, too expensive to use 35 single-seat, single-engine, all-weather stealth multi-role boondoggle? Over its lifespan, this piece of junk will cost taxpayers $1.7 trillion. It was supposed to replace the F-16, but it is, quote, too slow, maneuvers sluggishly, and cannot fire its new lightweight Gatling gun without destroying the housing and the airplane. In fact, this fighter has 12, quote, Class 1 life-threatening defects and 871 flaws, which must be fixed before this jet-powered nightmare can be deployed as intended, if ever. Even more depressing, check out the new Ford-class CVN, parenthesis, nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. This ship's, quote, innovative electromagnetic aircraft launch system does not work. There are also problems with the ship's nuclear propulsion system, the elevator design, and much, much more. When will the Ford CVN be fixed? Well, it has been almost 4 years, and the ship still has not successfully completed its post-delivery test and trial period. The United States is rapidly losing its strategic capability. In fact, the Russians and Chinese may be so superior that we cannot credibly deter them from using nuclear weapons on us. Russian military strategists have long held that strategic rocket weapons are the most decisive weapons of the next war. Why? Because they are the fastest weapons on Earth, and they hit the hardest. Senator Elizabeth Warren, of course, does not really think that we need them. She wants us to rely on something else. Perhaps she has an Indian tomahawk in mind, but can the Pentagon procure one that works? Now let's jump to HowlTurnerRadioShow.com. Now, you remember I started reading part of this article, but I was running out of time, so I just kind of skimmed through it. However, the headline says Putin uses characters from Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book during a speech, and sends signals of his intention to swarm Russia's enemies, to send them fleeing, and to kill one in particular. Now, I have not read Rudyard Kipling Jungle Book. I've probably seen, with my kids. I don't know it. And what's more, I don't care to. But I'm going to let him say what he wants to say about the Jungle Book, because it's really a threat to the United States. So this is HowlTurnerRadioShow.com. In his annual State of the Union address to both houses of Parliament, Russian President Vladimir Putin compared those who are harming Russia to a jackal, Tabaki, from Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. There are all kinds of little tabakis hanging around Shere Khan, howling to appease their sovereign, Putin said. This was a highly unusual thing for a sitting head of state to say in a major public speech. While most people shrugged it off, intelligence communities worldwide did not. In the book, tabakis are jackals, and Shere Khan was a man-eating tiger, the book's main antagonist. Referring to tabakis howling to appease their sovereign was a not-so-subtle hint by Putin at the relationship between the U.S. and its allies, as seen from the point of view of the Kremlin. The U.S. would be Shere Khan, the king tiger who is arrogant, thinks he should rule the whole jungle, and thinks rules don't apply to him. The tabakis are the jackals, or the U.S. allies in NATO, for instance. Although he did not say as much, it appears in intel circles that the Russian strongman sees himself as Mowgli, the book's main hero, the one who vanquished or killed Shere Khan, the tiger, i.e. USA. So, did Russian President Vladimir Putin signal that he intends to act out the final chapter of the Jungle Book in real life? In that book, Mowgli, meaning Putin, meets the Queen of the Bees and convinces her to have her swarm attack tribesmen in trying to invade his jungle habitat. Mowgli gets stung by a bee during this conversation with the bee queen, but has to swallow the pain to continue talking with the queen. The queen bee agrees and sends her swarm to sting the tribesmen and send them all fleeing. Depending on which version of the Jungle Book one reads, the US, UK, or even the Russian version, other character names which Putin mentioned elsewhere in his speech all work with Mowgli, some secretly, with the goal of getting rid of the tiger, or USA. One such set of characters are Buffalo, which in one version of the book stampede, causing Shere Khan, the tiger, or USA, to flee and fall off a cliff after Mowgli goes and breaks his back, killing him. Interestingly, history shows that there was once a U.S. submarine named Queenfish, whose vessel motto was Queen of the Sea, which was the first submarine equipped with nuclear missiles. So would Putin be using his own Queen of the Sea, i.e. submarines, to send their swarm of submarine-launched nuclear missiles to scatter those trying to harm his habitat? Now, let's pause a second. Let's bring in Bible prophecy. I talk about Dimitri all the time, but I want to read something here from Henry Groover. This was December 14th, 1986. He was a man that walked and prayed over cities. He was out walking a city. Now I'm going to skip right to the point. He says, all of a sudden I was lifted above the earth, looking down on the earth like a globe. As I looked down, I saw all kinds of massive ships and all kinds of airplanes coming out of this outlet out of Norway, and they headed down between the United States and Europe, literally covering the whole Atlantic. I wanted to see what was happening in the United States. I looked over, and I saw coming out of the United States radio communication towers. I saw the jagged edges, like they show that communications are coming out. Now, later he identifies those as cell towers. But in 1986, there were no cell towers. He says, but all of a sudden, as I was looking down on them, I began to see them sprinkle down on the earth like dust. I thought, oh no, they're not getting through. They're not getting through. They don't know what is happening. They're totally oblivious. Meaning, just before the submarines attack, something knocks out our communications. Then I began to see all kinds of submarines emerging from under the surface. I was surprised to see how close they were to our borders. They were in our territorial waters. They were almost sitting on our beaches. Then I saw missiles come out. They hit eastern and western coastal cities of the United States. The missiles took less than 60 seconds to hit from launch to detonation. I saw one hit Seattle Bellevue, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Miami, Tampa. I saw 6 nuclear blasts that just literally leveled everything. I cried out and I said, oh God, when will this be and what will be the sign of its coming? I heard an audible voice speak from behind me and say, when Russia opens her doors and lets the masses go, the free world will occupy themselves with transporting, housing, feeding, and caring for the masses, and will let down their weapons and cry peace and safety. Then sudden destruction will come. Then is when it will come. Now, let's go back to the article. So the article says that they're going to use submarines to hit America in a swarm. Does that sound like submarines hitting America in a swarm? Because it does me. So again, Putin, referencing his political enemies in the Russian Federation, said something of the Jungle Book that makes intel circles think he was telling them that he wants to eat them, i.e. destroy them. So, has Putin lost his mind? Or is he simply toying with his enemies? Or is he openly using arcane references from a book written in the 1800s to really convey his true heart? If so, then the U.S. and the EU might be facing a swarm of something to send them fleeing, and the U.S. in particular may get the fate of Shere Khan stampeded off a cliff, then gets his back broken and dies. What does the leader of the second most powerful nation on earth really mean with the bizarre references he made during his speech yesterday? This is the kind of real stuff that true intelligence community experts have to spend time figuring out. Fortunately, we have prophecy. April 1997, let me just read it. I'm going to jump right to the vision he had. I saw a small bear who seemed half dead lying on the ground. As I continued to watch, it began to breathe deeper. With every passing minute, it seemed to revive itself. Growing angrier, it began to grow. It began to paw the ground. His paw would shake the ground and the earth would shudder. The bear continued to devastate all that stood in its path. I'll read that again. The bear continued to devastate all that stood in its path until it came on some men with sticks trying to fend it off. By this time, the bear had grown so large that it simply crushed the men underfoot and continued to rampage. I believe that's NATO. I was stunned by what I saw and asked the man standing beside me, that's the angel talking to him, "What does this mean?" The angel said, "At first, they thought the great bear was dead. As it begin to stir once again, they will consider it harmless. Suddenly, it will grow strong once more with purpose and violence. God will blind the eyes of those who continue to trample on the sacrifice of Christ's blood until the day the bear will strike swiftly. This day will catch them unprepared, as it will be just as you saw." Then the man said, "Tell my people that the days are numbered and the sentence has been passed," meaning you're not going to pray this one away. This one is coming. But I want to believe that we can at least pray a delay. And I'd like to think that that delay could be 40 years, but there's no guarantee of that. Now I'm going to jump to right in the middle of another dream that Dimitri had, January 21, 1995. It's called The Beast Strikes. The voice boomed at me, saying, "Look to the right." I was standing and turned my head as ordered, and I saw a great flock of black birds with very sharp, large beaks. Out of the beaks came a blinding light, which you could barely look at. From their tails I saw flames of fire shooting out. I became very frightened. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was asleep and dreaming, but I was neither sleeping nor dreaming. I was standing up. This flock of birds suddenly turned into airplanes that did not make any noise. All right, now let's pause a second. He's about to say that these airplanes have a blinding light that comes out the front of them, and then a blaze of fire out the back of them, and they fly without making any noise. Now, how do you get something moving through the air and not making any noise? Because all of our technology says it's either an airplane blade that makes a lot of noise, or a jet engine, or some kind of a fire-breathing whatever coming out the back. All three of those make noise. The only thing that moves through the air that does not make noise is something either nuclear-powered or anti-gravity or something like that. That tells us what kind of technology the Russians really have. The flock of birds suddenly turned into planes that did not make any noise. American planes would go up and trying to attack, but as they would draw close, they would fall to the earth in a blaze of fire. A few years ago, I remember getting an article that said that the Russians had figured out that you can make lightning follow a laser beam. So, what if the front of the ship has a light that's very bright? Try to imagine a really, really bright light like a flash bulb. And instead of detecting things using radar that have radar-absorbing material, what if it sends out a bright light and then it has something to detect that light bouncing off of the missile or the airplane? Then the back part of the plane has a laser beam that they focus on their target, then send a blast of lightning down the laser beam to destroy their enemy. Now, I don't know. I don't have any high clearances. I'm just a prophecy teacher. So this is a pretty good guess, and unfortunately it kind of fits with a lot of things in the secular world. Now, on the positive, August 31 of 2020, Carolyn Charismata Weaver had a long vision. This is one paragraph of it. And I heard, "I'm not done yet. I saw the Russian flag. I saw the sickle and hammer come apart. The hammer pounded on the sickle until it was a straight line, as if it turned into a measuring rod. Then Yeshua took the hammer to Lenin's tomb and pounded it into dust. Next, it hit the top of the governmental building in Moscow at the top steeple in the middle. I saw the leaders rushing out and looking up, and I heard, 'Justice has come for the church in Russia.'" I want to take a minute and just share my heart with you. Sometimes in my prayer closet, I'll just ask myself, if the Lord were to ask me, "Stan, if there was one thing that you'd like to ask of me that I would give to you, what would it be?" Probably I would say, I want to teach Bible prophecy. More than anything else, I want to teach Bible prophecy. I remember when I was in the 4th grade, I could show you the very spot on the playground when it was spoken to my heart that you're going to be a sought-after public speaker. Well, I don't know about the sought after, but at least public speaker has certainly come. But it is my heart to teach Bible prophecy. So what we've set up is Stan's School of the Watchmen, and it's going to be June 11 to 13. Now you take a Muslim. They put down a prayer mat. They pray 5 times a day where their forehead touches the mat facing Mecca. The Christians, well, they're doing good if they pray once or twice a week, most of them. For Stan's School of the Watchman, I'm asking you to write out the book of Revelation. It will be one of your biggest blessings. You will cherish that spiral ring notebook. Bring that to the meeting, and you're going to use that to write your notes in, and I'm going to teach through the book of Revelation, you making notes. When you get done with this, my objective is for you to be able to be one of the experts in teaching Bible prophecy, specifically the book of Revelation. It's June 11 to 13, and you sign up by going to prophecyclub.com. Prophecyclub.com. June 11 to 13. Bring your spiral ring notebook. It's not required, but I certainly recommend it. Write out the book of Revelation and get signed up at prophecyclub.com. Stan's School of the Watchman, June 11 to 13. When a nuclear device goes off, it produces an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, and it fries every computer chip unless they're protected. The good news is EMPShield.com has devices a military testing facility says are 100% accurate to protect against EMP, solar flares, lightning, power surges backed by a 10-year warranty and a $25,000 insurance policy. And they come with simple installation instructions for home, vehicles, RV, and electric generators. You can have electricity in a blackout. EMPShield.com. Use the promo code PROPHECY for a $50 gift card. This helps Prophecy Club. That's EMPShield.com. Promo code PROPHECY for a $50 gift card. EMPShield.com. EMPShield.com. In 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. I was shown a secret door linking the feasts to the prophecies of Revelation. For the first time, the book of Revelation can be put in correct chronological order. You can understand Bible prophecy. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 5. 1 for 20, but don't do that. 5 for 35 or 10 for 60. What is the most important information to every beating heart on the globe? After accept Jesus, it would be, don't take the mark of the beast. Those taking the mark of the beast do not get soul death, but are tormented in the lake of fire and brimstone for eternity. How do you tell them? Give them miss the mark. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 10. 1 for 20, 10 for 30, and 20 for 50 at prophecyclub.com. Over the past 32 years, I've collected the best 101 prophecies from Dimitri Duduman, Michael Boldea, Leslie Johnson, Henry Gruber, Shane Warren, Terry Bennett, Marie Sklar, Augusto Perez, Doug Metzger, and more. It's called God's Warnings for America. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 5. 1 for 20, but don't do that. 5 for 35 or 10 for 60. My new book is called Tribulation Secrets in Daniel because that's what it does. It shows you the part of Daniel you need to know, being you're about to be a tribulation saint and will desperately need to know and understand about the last days you live in. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 10. 1 for 20, 10 for 30, and 20 for 50 at prophecyclub.com. In How Pre-Trib 1, I expose the dirty little secrets pastors don't want you to know, which is why sometimes they can't preach the truth, especially about the rapture. Then, using the secret door, I explain the truth about the rapture, and then I rebut 25 claims pre-tribbers use to prove pre-trib. You'll finally know the truth about the rapture. We offer it in shrink-wrap sets of 10. 1 for 20, but don't do that. 10 for 30, 20 for 50 at prophecyclub.com. That's prophecyclub.com. This is the best deal we've ever offered at the Prophecy Club. You get 10 How Pre-Trib 1, 10 Tribulation Secrets in Daniel, 10 Miss the Mark, 5 God's Warning to America, 5 Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy, 40 books, gift of $100 at prophecyclub.com. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com is owned by a prophecy student who reads his King James Bible and supports Prophecy Club. Call CornerstoneAssetMetals.com for gold, silver, palladium, rhodium bars, or coins. They can help you roll over your IRA, 401k, so tell CornerstoneAssetMetals.com Prophecy Club sent you.